Alright, so I've been debating making this video ever since I went out to go see The Last Jedi, and I wanted to talk about DJ. It's one of my favorite characters in the film, and actually I believe the best character in the entire film. First of all, say that I definitely have a bias in the situation. I have a bias against Benicio del Toro. I love Benicio del Toro. And I definitely feel that there should be a way to kind of separate your feelings about a performance from the content of the performance, maybe. And the only way I can really kind of describe that would be Dennis Hopper in Waterworld. I love Dennis Hopper, much in the same way I love Benicio del Toro. I think that the things that Dennis Hopper did and said in Waterworld are absolutely ridiculous, and it's not a good story, or there's no depth really of character there, but that doesn't stop me from loving Dennis Hopper's character in Waterworld, and I think he plays it well, even though he may not have anything to work with there. Most memorable character in the movie, right? So continuing on that similar note, I'd like to kind of look at the DJ here. And another thing I would have to say about this character is he feels Star Wars. And that's a feeling. It's, again, kind of biased. It's very hard to explain. His character has no desire to be involved in any of the events of this film. And that's something I think is kind of lost on the newer films that was in the older films, is that the rebels, the resistance, are generally treated as like criminals in the galaxy. You don't want to associate with them. The average person doesn't want to be a part of it. Something about his character just feels like it was written by like the old guard, someone that maybe worked on like Star Wars Rebels. He almost, he kind of has similar character to Hondo. I guess the first thing that we should address, as far as why I think this character kind of doesn't get a lot of traction, I guess, would be the tics. And I don't feel like this is a problem. Again, this may harken back to bias in the performance. I don't feel that this was a bad performance. I don't know if maybe people find tics annoying in general, or if they feel like he, to quote Robert Downey Jr., went full retard and kind of overdid it. Again, that's up to, I think, personal interpretation. For instance, I know a lot of people think the movie Rain Man is Dustin Hoffman's performance in it is amazing. Other people think that Dustin Hoffman's performance in Rain Man is mildly offensive. Again, up to personal interpretations. I love the tics. I love the stutter. I think it's one of a great example of this way this character actually has a backstory that's visible from meeting him. Maybe this was some post-trauma. It tells you something about this character that this character doesn't have to directly say to you in words, basically. I like it because you can kind of look at it as foreshadowing his switch and his betrayal. Maybe this character has duality to him. Maybe there is an inability to control this fake facade that he's holding in front of the characters in the audience. I think that's great. I think that's awesome. In a movie where everything is spelled out for you and horrible, this is something that maybe I like, and the fact that Benicio himself chose it, I think, implies deeper meaning to it. Obviously, there may be things there that we don't know, takes that we don't know, character backstory we don't know. So I enjoy the stutter. I think another thing that people really have a problem with would definitely be the name, if I had to guess. DJ sounds kind of like some local 20-year-old guy at the bar. I don't have a problem with this name. The name can mean anything. It's kind of understood that as these people speak English to us, that they also could use shortenings of phrasing and things like that, that for words that necessarily aren't in English. Jakku, for instance, isn't in English, but you would assume that the shortening of it may be J or JK, or if you imagine like a airport terminal or something like that. So the kind of context of DJ is unknown at best, and not only that, this man is kind of underground criminal smuggler. There's nothing that says he would have given Finn and Rose his real name anyway. Another thing I kind of like about the name is it's simple. It's not Therm Scissor Punch. It's not some crazy out there thing. It's a throwaway, quick, 2-syllable name. Another reason I really think that DJ is a good character is that he actually develops in this story, where that seems to be very, very lacking in every other character. Or if they do have development, I think their character development is misplaced or counterintuitive or weird. You know, giving an example, Poe's character development, he goes from being a hero to understanding he's not, I guess. Weird for a hero. He seemed like he was doing good at being a hero. I guess he shouldn't. You know, this character develops. This character starts out in jail. He almost goes through his own kind of hero's journey, almost like Finn and Rey are his MacGuffin. He ultimately teaches Finn a lesson and defeats him, if you want to look at him as the hero of his own journey. He defeats his opponent and ultimately teaches his opponent a lesson in defeat, which is something that no other character in this series does either. There's awesome, stuff here. He starts out good, he ends bad. He develops Finn's character, which shouldn't be necessary, because Finn shouldn't need a lesson on the gray moralities of war, seeing as he comes from the opposition. He should be naturally inclined to view war from a totality of perspective, but apparently not. Honestly, I believe that's not DJ's fault, and I'll kind of get into that later, where also this character seems to be the only character in the film that really isn't based around any sort of agenda. In fact, it almost is a counterpoint to the entire agenda of a lot of the film, especially Rose and the casino arc. He shows Finn basically that Rose and the Resistance are just as responsible for the suffering caused by this large-scale conflict and the profiteers of it than the Empire. He seems to contradict a socialist agenda, entirely. Also pointing out that, without this kind of military-industrial complex, the Resistance itself wouldn't exist or be able to resist. And I've heard a lot of arguments from other perspectives that say, these ideas are kind of very on the nose, not very well thought out or well written. I would just have to say that, in the company of the scenes surrounding these scenes where DJ kind of opens Finn's eyes, they're some of the deepest. I get that it's not subtle. I get that it's ham-hocked, but I'm kind of comparing it based upon its peers and not standing alone. You know, another thing about this character is that I believe it pays off in ways that are nice, enjoyable, and you know, you're initially suspicious of this character, and then he ends up lying to you about who he is and stealing a ship, and he wants Rose's necklace, but it pays off in the end because he gets to use it. You know, Finn says he's kind of stealing from the bad guys, right? Like, oh, it's okay, you're stealing from the bad guys, which DJ immediately cuts him off to correct him that there is no good or bad, which comes right before his kind of like speech laying it out, but it's also going to foreshadow his betrayal, immediately correcting him that he is not stealing from any bad guys or anything of the sort. But yeah, in general, I mean, I feel that he accomplished more in the little bit of screen time that he had, you know, main character of the film, for a role that, you know, Rian Johnson reportedly handpicked, as Benicio said in an interview. It was the most un-Rian Johnson part of the entire movie. He's the only competent villain in this entire film. He is always one step ahead of our heroes and our villains because he is able to make his way out of a situation that is supposedly dire, hopeless, captured the flagship of the Empire, and he can just maneuver his way out of it. He's got bargaining power. He's always one step ahead of anyone. He's the only competent villain in this film that has weight to him, that has menace, that actually represents some sort of threat and some sort of obstacle that seemingly can't be overcome. And for that, thank you, DJ. Thank you, Benicio. And hopefully you get a little more love.